Hey y'all, Keith here from Emerald Minecart, and today I'll be talking about a short analog horror series that is truly horrifying, and that series is the Chimpy Chipa tapes made by SpringTok. I've actually made a video about this series. That video was me doing a reaction about it, but ever since that video, I have been waiting to do a video talking about the series. Now, I want to note that I won't be covering the game, despite the fact that the game takes place after the series, but hey, if you want to check out the game, it's completely free and on itch.io. Anyways, time to dive into the series. The first entry starts off with a banned commercial for the restaurant Chimpy Chipas. It starts off as normal, but once we see the animatronic, the narrator of the commercial begins to stutter as the footage stops, and we hear the narrator complain about the animatronic. And to be perfectly honest, considering what the animatronic looks like, I don't blame him. The narrator tries to do a few more takes, but in the end, he gives up because he just can't stand how creepy the animatronic is. After this, the footage cuts to Chipa himself in what seems to be a dark room, followed by his eyes following a cursor, showing us that this video is on someone's computer, this someone actually being the main character of the video game that is a sequel to the series. This is followed by the cursor clicking off the video and us getting a creepy visual of Chipa's eyes being burnt into the screen, then them slowly vanishing. The second entry starts off with a message that this footage being shown is confidential and that it's warehouse storage footage, followed by a footage description of an attempted theft and said thief going missing. Footage then cuts to Chipa, who is staring off in the distance, followed by the sound of glass breaking and an alarm going off, which is then followed by Chipa looking directly at the camera as we can hear the footsteps of someone approaching. This is followed by the animatronic turning on and vanishing. The screams of Chipa's newest victim, aka the thief, are heard in the background. Then the footage cuts back to how Chipa was before the thief broke in, and things are seemingly back normal, until the text in the top left corner changes, showing that the thief is somehow still alive, only to discover that his soul is seemingly inside Chipa. The footage ends with a human skull slowly appearing on screen, this obviously being the skull of the thief. The third entry starts off with text explaining that this is recorded audio of a so-called disturbing 911 call. I'll be the judge of that. And this is surprisingly followed up by, you guessed it, a 911 call. The caller describes that a woman with a gun has showed up in a Chimpy Chipa's restaurant and confirms that no one has been hurt. This is followed by the caller saying that the woman with the gun is being quite blasphemous and is rambling about something taking away her God-given right. So basically, your avid Republican Karen who likes to bully fast food employees in her free time when she isn't busy taking the kids. The caller, who we find out is named Rose, and is the duty manager of the restaurant, is currently hiding from the woman who is aiming her gun at all of the 30 people in the restaurant. Something to keep in mind is that half of the 30 people are children. But then Rose says something interesting, the fact that the woman's eyes are bright green, meaning that she is possessed by Circus Baby herself. Nah, jokes aside, the woman is obviously possessed, as Rose mentioned that the woman's eyes are in fact glowing. And usually in media, glowing eyes usually means some sort of supernatural shit. Then we get to the horrifying part, as Rose describes the woman no longer pointing the gun at everyone and has decided to do a gun tasting contest and blows her brains out, which is how the call ends. But after the text vanishes, the background is still visible and the door opens to show an ultrasound of a pregnant woman, followed by the screen flashing and the door now showing a black void and the background being red. Followed by the text on the screen that is of the woman who just shot herself, trying to explain that she didn't mean it, and she wasn't in control, confirming that yes, she was possessed. The footage then cuts to multiple newspapers, the first one being about the incident shown in the video, and the second one being about how Chimpy Chipas is having a hard time trying to stay afloat because of their mascot. The footage then cuts to Chipa for a bit before cutting the audio of another phone call that is taking place after the event of Entry 3. The caller says nothing but hungry and a police officer being sent to investigate it. It then cuts to footage of the police officer looking around, and we get this fake-out jump scare in the form of seeing these two green glowing lights in dark, only discover it's just machinery that is above the actual threat, Chipa. We then get to see some cool footage in the form of the officer's flashlight flickering and the animatronic moving while the light is off. And as Chipa gets closer, the officer fires and he gets very close and it's shown that the officer may have been killed. Followed by the footage cutting to green, ending the tape. And in my opinion, about the disturbing 911 call, I will say, it was disturbing. The fourth entry continues after the last entry, and we discover that the police officer actually survived, and we get some cinematic footage revealing the officer shot Chipa in his right eye, seemingly stopping the carnage. But we all know it's not the end because the series is 7 entries long, and animatronic being sent to the dump. I will say I enjoyed this segment of the entry because usually analog horror doesn't get cinematic that often. This is then followed up with footage of the news covering the event that has happened so far, followed by informing us that the thief who was killed was the husband of the woman who killed herself in the previous entry. After this, the footage cuts to footage of Chipa in the restaurant holding a plate that has a heckin' bunger on it, and he's looking around, but then a gunshot is heard and Chipa looks directly at the screen, turned off, clearly having PTSD of being shot in the eye by the police officer. And, you know, the events of the previous tape. We then discover that the owners of the business let a sitcom be filmed in the restaurant to maybe recoup from financial loss, only to discover that the sitcom was cancelled due to the footage constantly vanishing and weird corruption with the footage going on. The footage ends with the owners of Chimpy Chipa confirming that they are permanently closing down. The fifth entry starts off with the intro for the cancelled sitcom where we get a less creepy Chipa. They should have started off with this design, but I guess the designers were nostalgic for those creepy-ass monkey toys that made a cameo in Toy Story 3. The sitcom starts and we see the two main characters, and one of them is getting sick of the other character for they are having problems ordering. Eventually the manager comes over and it seems the character having problems is finally about to order, only to ask for 5 more minutes and the other character and the manager groan. But then the character getting sick of the character having ordering problems says the following.
Oh my gosh, shoot me now!
Everything is green and the character having ordering problems is still in character while the manager lies dead on the ground and the character who was getting sick of him now has green eyes and is in a trance-like state. The character that was having ordering problems tries to get their attention only for him to get knocked out as a distorted laugh track in the background plays. Then the character who knocked out the guy stares at the screen as a bunch of green eyes appear in the background and text shows up on the screen. But because of the text that shows up, I have to believe that Ermac stopped by to make a quick cameo before being followed by learning that the text belongs to the animatronic / the entity that's possessing the animatronic. The sixth entry starts off with a fire, specifically a fire at Chimpy Chipa's, discovering that Rose decided to sacrifice herself by setting herself in the place on fire. After she dies, a green glowing orb comes out of her, and after this, the footage cuts to the junkyard where we see Chipa turn back on, as all of the green orbs, aka the souls of Chipa's victims, go inside Chipa's left eye, causing him to go into Sans Undertale mode. Now our seventh and final entry opens up where we get to see the journal of the woman who killed herself, Miranda. The journal is filled with texts that show Miranda's slow possession. After this, we are shown the man who was recording the fire by cinematic style, and he notices the green orb leaving the burning restaurant. This is then followed by the man running home, presumably being chased by Chipa. A police officer is sent to the scene, and said police officer is actually the same officer who shot Chipa in the right eye. The policeman arrives, and we also see that the man who was recording the fire is hiding from Chipa, who is looking for him. Then we get this green-looking POV of the green orb / soul that escaped the burning building, and then proceeds to go into Chipa. This is followed by a dialogue between Rose and the entity, and Rose basically traps the entity in the animatronic body, letting the officer shoot out Chipa's other eye, seemingly trapping the entity with Rose. This is then followed up with an interview with the cameraman, who is named Brady. As he explains, he has been following all the events happening at the restaurant. The video then ends with our protagonist of the sequel game downloading the banned commercial. Okay, wait. Okay, before the video actually ends, yesterday night I actually decided to email SpringTok some questions because I saw, hey, maybe I could do a little interview with him at the end of this video. And at first I didn't think he would actually reply, but he did, and I'm going to go over the questions I asked and the answers he gave me. So yeah, question 1 was, what inspired you to do filmmaking? And he replied with, when I was young, my parents had a camcorder and I'd make random short movies with my brother and our friends. This sparked my love for film, or for making movies, and so I continue to pursue the passion to this very day. Which, you know, some very humble beginnings, especially since, honestly, yeah, like, kind of the same with me, like, it was, like, some sort of, yeah, it was this type of, like, video camera that I would use to, like, record random things, and, yeah, it's nice to see humble beginnings. Then the second question was, what was the inspiration for Chimpy Chipa? His response was, obviously being a big fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, the franchise inspired me to make my own mascot horror character. Which, you know, obviously some people will be like, well, yeah, of course he likes FNAF. What do you think would have inspired him to make Chimpy Chipa? But, you know, here's the thing, though. Like, sometimes when someone makes something that has a haunted animatronic, it's not always FNAF that causes the inspiration for it. Like an example being Willy's Wonderland. Like that didn't have any inspiration from FNAF. And also the fact there was that one Gravity Falls episode that had like haunted animatronics that came out before FNAF did, so yeah, there's that. Okay, the third question, will there be any more fan films? And his response was, I'd love to make more fan films, especially with the Predator. He's my all-time favorite sci-fi character. And you know, as someone who likes the Predator, yes, I agree with that. Especially since I really did like his The Predator and SCP crossover fan film. And then the fourth question I asked was, do you have any plans on making a full-length movie? His answer was, that is the dream, to make a feature-length movie. I don't plan on it at the moment. I'd love for a studio to pick up on my concepts. However, one day I make a movie myself, I have some ideas. Which, you know, pretty nice. Then the fifth question I asked is, if you could direct for any movie franchise, what would it be? He replied with, funnily enough, I'd love to direct a movie for the Scary Movie franchise. To make a horror comedy movie would be a dream. Scary Movie 3 is my all-time favorite comedy movie. Which, as someone who likes the first Scary Movie, I honestly, yeah, I agree. Scary Movie is definitely a good franchise. I haven't watched the other Scary Movies, though. I've only watched the first one, so I should probably watch the other ones. But yeah, yeah, honestly, I think that'd be pretty neat. And then the final question, / sixth question I asked is there a chance we might see merch down the line, aka a Chimpy Chipa plush or something? And his response was, I've thought about it in the past. If I bring Chimpy back, I may consider getting some plushies made if there's enough demand to fund the project. Then he also replied, well, thank you for all the questions. I hope these answers will be okay for your video. All the best, SpringTok. Which yes, these answers were good for my video. And yeah, honestly, I really do hope that he teams up with Makeshift to make a Chimpy Chipa plush. Because look, as much as Chimpy Chipa is like freaking creepy, I wouldn't mind having a plush of him. I really wouldn't. But yeah, it was an honor to do some form of an interview with SpringTok. And again, if he sees this video, hey, I really did enjoy the Chimpy Chipa tapes. I also really did enjoy the mannequin tapes and the other videos he made. I really did enjoy that. So yeah. And hey, who knows? Maybe if we can, one day we could have the ability to make a film together or something, because that'd be really cool. But yeah. So that is the actual end of this video. So peace out, home guards, and goodbye.